Okay, so Tillion, just be good to understand a little bit about the company, a bit of background on what it is you do.
Yeah, sure. So I joined and we really kind of started talking about the business only a couple of months ago. So we are I like to describe it as a clean sheet data center company. So unencumbered by any legacy assets, unencumbered by any legacy ways of doing things. And really we were formed by a private equity firm in Spain called Azura Capital to build in Spain large-scale campuses, so anything between kind of 150 megawatts and 750 megawatts is really the sweet spot for us. So that's what we're doing, and while we're here today, meeting some of the folks that are going to help us on that journey.
I was going to say, so yeah, where are you in terms of how long you've been going, and what's on the roadmap? Where are you, and what's the company like?
I'd say that we've been doing a couple of months. We've been deep undercover for the last kind of year. So our first project is in a region called Zaragoza, which is kind of midway between Madrid and Barcelona. We think it's a really exciting place to build data centers. It's got fantastic amount of renewable power there, some great fiber connectivity through to Bilbao North and Lisbon West and Marseille and Barcelona to the east. And we're not alone, so Microsoft and Amazon are both building campuses there, both kind of gigawatt scale campuses. So we have our first project, Zaragoza 1, which is a 300 megawatt campus. And then we have two other plots of land in the same region, all kind of within 20 kilometers of each other, both of 150 megawatts. So we'll look to develop in the next 3 years somewhere between 300 and 600 megawatts of capacity there, which I know these are crazy numbers, right? Because 20 years ago when I started in this career, I think there probably wasn't 600 megawatts of data center in the UK. And I joke with people, our data halls in these buildings are 24 megawatts each, right? And I think about 15 years ago, I built my first 24 megawatt data center in Acton. And I thought, will we find customers to fill this data center? Have we built it too large? But, this is the world we live in these days. And, I think that increasingly you're seeing that kind of these campuses really need to be of the kind of 150 megawatt plus to accommodate some of these hyperscale workloads. And really those are our customers.
I was going to say, so is it very much you're aiming at this AI boom that's happening at the moment, or are you looking at sort of cloud companies and just what the typical customer might look like, I suppose?
Phil, I have this perspective, having been doing this for 20-something years, and I think what we've learned, or what I've learned in the 20-something years, is that it's hard to predict what the internet will bring you or what technology companies will bring you. I think, years ago in my career, I started at Telecity and we were building kind of peering exchanges. And I don't think we anticipated Netflix, but the consequence of high quality peering in London was low quality bandwidth. And the consequence of that was Netflix, right? So I think the fundamentals kind of continue to be true. What we're building is great quality data centers, and with an eye to where the silicon manufacturers are going, and trying not to worry too much about the applications. And experience has taught that the applications can be kind of hard to predict as a data center company, but actually the fundamentals of robust power, robust cooling, and robust security will stand you in good stead for a long time. So look, for sure, some of the neoclouds are the kind of people we're talking to. Also, some of the more traditional hyperscale operators who are the ones with capacity in the region or ones who are looking to grow in region. But I think it will be a mixture. And, I think as the journey we progress along this journey, we're going to keep seeing new entrants. And actually, one of the fun things about AI is that it takes away some of the barriers to someone building a technology company. I think you see some of the kind of really interesting companies that are growing real quick are able to do an awful lot with not very much. So who knows who our customers will be in 3 years' time, but we're looking forward to finding them out and serving them with great quality power, great quality cooling, and a secure environment.
And in terms of the reason for Spain and where you might move on to, I know there's the connectivity you've explained, but obviously there are lots of places I guess you could have. So was there anything in crucial factor in Spain, or just you think it's an underserved market, so there is a great opportunity?
So great question. So I think Aragon, which is the state that we're building in this where Zaragoza is, the EU did a study. So about 10 years ago, Aragon was really the coal mining region of Spain. And the EU did a study about how a state or parts of Europe could transition from fossil fuel legacy industry into kind of future renewables. And as part of that study, they determined that if you covered the state of Aragon with PV and wind, you could supply the whole of the European Union's energy needs.
Oh, right.
So the state of Aragon is about 1/20th of the land mass of Spain, and just in that relatively small area, you could cover all of Europe's energy needs. Now, I think the residents of Aragon rightly might be disappointed if we cover the whole state,
yes, yeah.
but it gives you a sense of the availability of power. And I think we all know Spain's kind of sunny, but actually it's quite windy in Aragon as well. So there's a great opportunity to develop both wind and solar there. And I think, if you look at where the kind of concentration of very large-scale data centers has traditionally been in Europe, it's been in the Nordics. But there are only so many fjords you can dam in the Nordics, and most of the fjords in the Nordics are now dammed. Whereas they essentially have this unlimited ability to create new renewable opportunities in Spain. The Nordics are kind of constrained, and you can start to see some pushback from residents, and the available land. They're quite small countries, easy places to build are running out. And I think the other one is geopolitical. Increasingly it doesn't necessarily look like a great idea to run all your fibre through the Black Sea. We don't find many Russian submarines in central Spain. So I think the confluence of those factors is a big one. And then the last one is clearly liquid cooling, right? In the past, you wanted your data center to be somewhere nice and cold. Spain is many things, but it's frequently not cold in Spain. Although Aragon actually is not the warmest part of Spain. But because we're now rejecting water at higher temperatures, we're getting free cooling when it's 40, 45 degrees outside. You don't really need to be somewhere where it's kind of -20. There's no actual advantage. And in fact, you might spend more energy warming up your exterior pipework to stop it from freezing. So really all of those things, I think, are creating this kind of new opportunity in Spain that, didn't exist. And then, from the markets you can serve, obviously Southern Europe, you can serve the kind of European market just as well as you can from the Nordics. But also you're very well connected into Africa. You've got the West Africa gateway cables, which don't exist in the Nordics. You're also really well connected into the Middle East. So from a connectivity perspective as well, arguably Spain, Portugal is much richer in terms of its connectivity than the Nordics.
And I'm just wondering, in terms of the sort of landscape in Iberia, I know that people are building in Portugal and Spain, so how exciting is the Iberian Peninsula, do you think, as an opportunity? And do you have plans to sort of move out of it over time, or will that keep you busy for the foreseeable future, I suppose?
So one of the great things about Azora, our backers, is that they've been building both kind of solar and PV wind projects in Iberia for a long time. So there's a lot of knowledge of the Spanish power market that exists inside our business. We also, as a company, build student residences and hotels and other commercial properties. So we have this real understanding of both the power market and also the construction market in Spain. So like anyone, we have a limited number of dollars and we have a limited number of people to deploy those dollars. And I think while there's opportunities for us in Spain, we'll keep building in Spain. Certainly Portugal is also an area we find interesting, and probably Italy. I'm going to say that for the next kind of 2 or 3 years, you'll probably see us active in Spain. But yeah, look, certainly beyond that, the funds that back us are keen that we continue to grow the business. And if we find other interesting opportunities in Europe that make commercial sense, but also are sustainable, where we can develop, for example, wind and PV adjacent to those properties, then certainly those are opportunities we'd look at. And of course, the other piece is customers, right? So like any company, we're led by where our customers want us to be. And if a customer wants us to be somewhere we can make the project make sense, then yeah, absolutely, we'll look at those projects outside of Iberia. But yeah, I strongly believe that it's a fun market, and it will be growing there for, beyond the 3 to 5 year horizon and beyond the near-term projects that we have in the pipeline.
And just, I'm intrigued as well, because you say, so you're part of an organisation that has a big renewables energy, so that's quite a nice link. So you say, are you looking to sort of develop microgrids alongside the data centres, or how does that play?
Absolutely, So I mean, really, the way that we see this working is, it's hard to build renewable energy projects without some sort of commitment from a customer.
Yeah.
So the flow for us really is to build and develop the data centre, establish some base load of demand, because it's, as we all know, you build a half gigawatt data center, you don't immediately have 500 megawatts of load on day one. So what you need to do is allow there to be some maturity, allow your customers to move in, allow that base demand to develop. And then at that point, it becomes kind of interesting to go and build a solar or wind project nearby. But, without kind of spoiling anything that we haven't announced, absolutely, once we reach a point of development with our sites, the intention is to sign a PPA with the business that provides the power from the wind or solar plants, and then supply behind the meter. And I think that that's a model that we can really robustly roll out again and again and again. And, and that ends up with data centres that become good for communities, right? Because each of those projects will develop much more capacity than we sell to ourselves in the data centre. So you end up adding net new renewable capacity to the grid and storage, because we'll develop these projects with storage too.
Okay, yeah.
So, a great way of financing new renewable development, build the load and then build the supply.
Excellent. Any other sort of things to share, or?
No, I think, the big thing for us, and part of the reason for this shows like this are so good for us is we are a small team, and partnerships and finding the right people to work with is really key for us. And I think what's really exciting when we're speaking to kind of key infrastructure partners here is to see how much change they're embracing and how quickly. And this is my 22nd year in data centres. Depressingly or not, it's all I've ever done. And honestly, it's fair to say not that much changed in those 20 years. So, we maybe got rid of raised floors, and we moved some chilled water services out of the white space, and we argued about whether or not 5 kilowatts a rack was enough, or maybe 10 or 20.
Yeah.
But I think what's really exciting is the way our partners are embracing change, and I think hopefully it's going to make it an industry that's a bit more exciting for younger people to join and enjoy as well. They're going to start to see some real change. So, really excited to be part of that journey, embrace that change, and meet like-minded people to work with us on that journey. And now